Special thanks to Susan Sherrod and the Mainwarings and Jerry Simonson for putting on this event. It's just fantastic to see so many old friends and get a chance to rub elbows with the scientific dignitaries that are here, so that's great. Real quick before starting, I wanted to give everybody an update on Eduardo Cardona. I called him the day I left for the conference to see how he was doing. He's about halfway through his chemo and radiation treatments for lung cancer right now, and the very first words out of his mouth were, make sure and say thanks to everybody at the conference for me if you would. So that's what I'm doing, and he seems to be doing great. He's very positive. So hopefully he's going to have many more years to finish up his volumes that are in the wings. Just real briefly, I first became interested in this subject matter while I was in college. One of my professors had a complete 10 series of Ponce magazine, and so I read that and got kind of interested in the spectacle of a maverick scholar taking on establishment science, and so I eventually got the Kronos Journal and Velikovsky Reconsidered, and then in 1980, Lynn Rose, who was a longtime speaker at these symposia, alerted me to Dave Talbot's book, The Saturn Myth, and said that I should track that down. And so I did, and I was so impressed by the logical coherence of that argument that I hitchhiked from Princeton, New Jersey to Portland to see Dave, to meet him for the first time. And we've essentially been friends ever since. That was 1981. And in the early 80s, we published a series of articles together for Kronos magazine on the comet Venus. And then in 1988, Dave started the journal Aeon. And so I was kind of his right-hand man on that journal for many years. And then Eduardo joined us. And so, we had that together for about 20 years. And so basically, it's become my life's work. I would say that of the many great insights in the Saturn myth, the one that stood out to me was the idea that creation was something that human beings actually experienced and witnessed up close and personal. And so that's kind of that's the subject matter of my talk here today. Okay, this is just a picture of what we think the polar configuration looked like at one time during a specific phase. This is actually a simulation done at a top company with a Mars-sized object, a Venus-sized object, and a Saturn-sized object behind it. And so that's the image you come up with. And so one of our favorite scholars is a guy named Mircea Eliade, and he's written extensively on myths of creation. And so he says, myth narrates a sacred history. It relates an event that took place in primordial time, the fabled time of beginnings. In other words, myth tells how, through the deeds of supernatural beings, a reality came into existence. Myth, then, is always an account of creation. Myth tells only that which really happened. So I'm going to discuss two myths today, one of the oldest known from ancient Mesopotamia, and then one from the New World. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the oldest rites, recorded about 3000 BC. There's pictures of it, vases showing it, an early text describing it. It's called the Sacred Marriage Rite. And this described a marriage of the king, whose name was Dumuzi, and the queen of heaven, who was the planet Venus, known as Inanna. So the Babylonian paradigm for love and marriage was the relationship between these two figures. By the way, every single slide I show today, I'm quoting one of the top scholars in the world, recognized by all the top Mesopotamian ancient Near East scholars. The ritual in question originated in ancient Uruk, where the deified king Dumuzi, familiar from biblical passages as Tammuz, married Inanna and thus entered the Sumerian pantheon. The sacred marriage in Ur's third dynasty was celebrated during the New Year festival, when the king, representing Dumuzi, united with the planet Venus Inanna. Their union was believed to revive the forces of life and fertility in nature and society, and to ensure abundance for Sumer in the subsequent year. So basically what this rite involved is the king would enter into a dwelling specially constructed for this situation and make love to this woman who represented the planet Venus. The earliest text we have describing this very well-known rite comes from about 2100 BC, and it's this King Idundagan's hymn to the goddess Inanna. And it describes what he did on his sacred marriage rite. So here's the opening couple of lines. I shall greet her who descends from above. I shall greet the great lady of heaven, Inanna. I shall greet the holy torch who fills the heaven, the light, her who shines like the daylight, the great lady of heaven, the most awesome lady, the respected one who fills heaven and earth with her huge brilliance. Her descending is that of a warrior. Now, if you guys go out tonight and look into the western sky, you'll see that Venus is about as bright tonight as it's ever going to be during your lifetime, and Jupiter's right next to it. And so, see if, as bright as it is, if any of you guys would think that to describe it as it's filling all of heaven, or it's shining as daylight, or it's descending like a warrior. To continue with this same text, on New Year's Day, the day of the ritual, they set up a bed for my lady. They cleanse rushes with sweet-smelling cedar oil. They arrange them for my lady, for there, the queen and king's bed. The king approaches her pure lap proudly. Dumuzi lies down beside her. He caresses her pure lap. She makes love with him on the bed. Again, this is a Sumerian text. This is not some scholar, and it's certainly not me. This is the Sumerian king himself writing these words. After the union is completed, Inanna rises from the king's lap, and immediately flax rose up with her, the barley rose up with her. The steppe had been filled with abundance, like a blossoming garden. And so now this is the top scholar in Sumerian studies today. He says, quite a few sources indicate that through the performance of this rite, ritual great abundance immediately followed. Deified kings who enacted the role of the bridegroom were said to be placed in the holy garden. By analogous symbolism, the divine bride, Inanna or Venus, was compared to a green garden. The language of the ancient Sumerian texts is so explicitly sexual that it seems beyond question that they describe a sexual union between the king and the queen, or the goddess, the consummation of their marriage. The crucial question, however, is why? Why did this union take place, and why was it performed ritually year after year? For thousands of years, by the way. Despite all the various suggestions reviewed above, no scholarly consensus has been reached regarding the basic question. While the importance of the sacred marriage rite for the Sumerians is obvious, it has remained enigmatic to modern scholars. We could use that sentence for virtually the next 50 slides I'm going to show. All this stuff remains enigmatic to modern scholars. Despite all the various suggestions reviewed above, no scholarly consensus has been reached regarding the basic question. While the importance of the sacred marriage is obvious and enigmatic. All right, it didn't go forward. Unfortunately, our sources say next to nothing as to how the Venus aspect of Inanna was linked to her functions as a goddess of eros, love, and fertility. Because every serious scholar recognizes that Inanna is intimately associated with eros, love, and fertility from 3000 BC on. The belief that the king could, in some sense, actually have sexual intercourse with the goddess is intimately connected to the belief in the divinity of the kings of this period. So reading the ancient texts, you will find that after the king engages in this rite with the planet goddess, that's when his name starts getting a little D besides it, meaning he's now a god himself. Samuel Kramer, one of the top scholars in Mesopotamian studies, discovered a very obscure text that has hardly gotten any attention from the other authorities, and it describes Inanna taking Dumuzi up to heaven with her, and placing him as a star alongside her. And so this is his conclusion to that text. Since, as is well known, the king of Sumer, as the husband of Inanna, was identified with Dumuzi, it may be, to judge from this ancient text, that there was current in Sumer a theological tenet that the king upon his death was turned into a heavenly star situated close to the Venus star Inanna. Oops, went one too far. Okay, this is a guy named Wolfgang Heimpel at the University of California, and this is how he